is in the air. Oh, Michael! Now overshoots turn one.
Green, green, green. Green wide with hand.
They're running in there, each other left and right.
All clear, nice work. Outside on your property.
All right, welcome everybody. Welcome back to another race of Olympus Racing League. This is season 5 at Bathurst. Today I have a new commentator with me, Key. Say hello.
Hello. Hi.
You have some previous experience, don't you?
Yeah, I was the commentator for FPR Racing, and for the brief stint that the Solo Endurance Championship was online, I commentated there, and a smattering of other Forza competitions here and there.
Yeah, it's sounds like you have quite the experience there. I am
Yeah.
looking at the screen here, and it looks like we're I think it's a minute left until the cars are starting off. Let's see if we can get you guys the screen here. Do you have the qualified positions there?
Yep.
All right, let's go through them.
So starting off on the grid, we have M. Whitford in the McLaren, car number 86. Heading into P2, alongside them is L. Fassler in the Aston Martin, car number 27, followed by J. Pendry in the Audi, car number 73. Following them is K. Soranko in the McLaren, number 74. Following in P5 is P. Foldesi in the BMW, car number 711. P6, T. Balakaya in the Porsche, car number 51, followed by T. Hanks in the Aston, car number 666. Followed by J. Clark in the McLaren of car number 64. Following in the back of the grid is K. O'Keefe in the Ferrari, car number 91. And in 10th position at the very back is R. Morton in the Porsche, car number 44.
Yeah, that was the grid for today, guys. It's a little bit of a low number today, but I'm guessing it's the summer heat that's creeping in.
Everyone's out enjoying the day today, it would seem then.
Oh, yeah.
So, looks like the formation lap has begun as we now see all the cars beginning to drive off now. Starting to warm up their tires, heat up their brakes, take one last look around Australia before they begin to battle it out.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very narrow track, Bathurst, but also a very rewarding one, but it's extremely difficult to overtake, especially on the uphill going up the mountain.
Especially the mountain part, yeah, you're right. I think we'll see a lot of the lower classes will probably be struggling a bit with the tougher part of the mountain, but I think if we keep following the pro class, we're going to see some interesting racing for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It will also be interesting to see when cars choose to brake, as depending on the cars and depending on their setups, brakings will also be different. So, I'm looking forward to seeing how brave some of the drivers will be going into the opening turns of around turn 2 to roughly turn 6.
Oh yeah, I think the top 2 drivers that qualified, Mark Westford and Lucas Fassler, they're always fast, always they're very consistent. So I think if they stay ahead in the start, I think they can pull away quite quickly. But we'll see how it goes, because Kara Soranko, he's also quite a fast driver. Today he qualified only 4th, it looks like. James Pendry, of course, he's a fast driver, but usually Kara Soranko is qualifying in front of him, so we'll definitely see how that will sorry, I just lost my train of thought completely.
Yeah, we'll definitely see if there'll be any overtakes heading into the first couple corners then before heading up the mountain, because it is an extremely difficult track, and I think for the amateur drivers, they will have much more difficulty being able to navigate it more so than the pros or the silvers. So we'll see how proficient they are heading through these twists and turns.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you saw during the practice and qualifying, but there was quite a lot of mishappenings with the lower class drivers. So we'll see how it goes, and I think we're following on with Jason Clark right now. This is his first race for the season, actually. he's a pretty consistent driver, but he's also in the lower classes, so it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up as well.
Well, on the bright side, no matter what happens at the end of the day today, all drivers can say that they were in the top 10.
Oh yeah, that is true. That is true. It's going to be some big points for everyone.
Definitely. Although with the smaller grid, we might be able to see a bit more action, and hopefully, with everyone more jumbled up, definitely going to be possibility to become a lot easier for that. But you never know what will happen. 10 cars could turn out to be 5 at the end of the race, so we'll have to see how all the drivers are going through the mountain.
Yeah, it looks like we're... Wait, where are we? Oh yeah, it looks like we're getting up to the
Final set of corners now.
Yeah. Mark's got the inside there, as well as Pendry. I think that could be an advantage, maybe?
Quite possibly. Definitely, like, depending on which side of the track you are, usually will play a role, but in the world of sim, from my understanding, that, you know, it can go either way. As we now see that the cars have just passed the pit lane entry, they're now heading into the final turn, turn 16, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't checked the track in a while. But now we're heading down the main straight, so we should be going green any second now, as the cars are now about to head over across the start-finish line.
And there we go.
And we have green, and now we're out and away. So, Whitford, followed by Fassler, Pendry, Soranko, Faldesi, Balakaya, Hanks, Clark, O'Keefe, and Morton. As we now see the cars heading through the first turn, coming into the second now. We're seeing, keeping it nice, tidy, and clean. So far, no one's attempted to make any overtake on anyone. Right now, we still have the starting order still the same. But we could potentially seeing Pendry making something happen on Fassler relatively soon. As he's looking to catch the slipstream, he might be going into the left side, but no! Unable to make anything happen as Fassler. Oh, but going really wide. It looks like Pendry has dropped quite a number of places, as we're now on board with Whitford now, taking a look at his rear wing with the chase now of Fassler. So now heading up the mountaintop, doesn't look like any cars are willing to really go side by side, as it is in a very narrow section of the track, originally meant for MotoGP. So this will be definitely fun to watch in the next 75 minutes of the race. As we're now coming down, it looks like we're heading down into the bottom section of the mountain now, of the downhill. So this is definitely going to be a very tricky portion, as downhill means more speed, which means a lot more braking. So drivers will need to relatively watch their speed as they're coming down. So on board still with Whitford, as they are in the lead of the race still.
It
commanding
looks like
in.
Whitford is getting quite a little bit of a gap there to Fassler right now.
At the current moment, it looks to be so. This is definitely looking out to be a potentially interesting race, as we're now on board with T. Hanks in the Aston Martin car number 666. That is a very lovely green livery. As we see now the cars filing in before they're heading into the awkward-looking chicane of the second last corner of the track.
Still looking
for now.
pretty tight there between cars 3 and until 5.
Definitely. It looks like Soranko all the way down to O'Keefe, as O'Keefe now actually is in the bottom, with Morton being able to jump them into P9, so that Ferrari will definitely have to play a bit of a catch-up to that Porsche now. But, relatively speaking, the order still looks to be the same, with Faldesi actually up into P4, Soranko in P3 now, so it looks like Pendry is in P5. Yeah, Pendry is in P5.
It looks like he's trying to overtake, though. Can he get the slipstream? And I don't think
now on board with Pendry, slipstreaming onto Soranko, possibly heading into the next turn, turn 3, but unable to make anything stick. Now as we're heading up the hill of the mountain, maybe, possibly on the mountain straight entrance, but no, unable to make anything happen. They'll have to wait until heading into the downhill to try, but they are still bumper to bumper, as we're currently on board with Faldesi's trying to make that happen. Will they be able to do something? Let's see.
This could end in a horrible crash, or it could end in glory. We'll see.
Currently on board with the BMW of Faldesi, trying to hold off Pendry. Pendry trying to make that overtake happen, but still nothing able to happen, as they're now entering into the downhill portion of the mountain. Looks like both drivers are able to maintain their brakes and staying relatively cautious, but it looks like Pendry might have just chipped the wall there. If they're not careful, that could have sustained some serious damage.
Yeah, hopefully he didn't get too much damage from that. Could be costing in the long run.
So, 5 minutes into the race, we have Whitford, Fassler, Soranko, Foldesi, Pendry, Balakaya, Hanks, Clark, Morton, and O'Keefe. But it looks like we might be having Pendry trying to take back third position once more, as Foldesi climbed up from P5. So, yeah, you were saying.
I was going to say, it's really tight here, and it looks like I'm fearing an accident by how tight they're driving right now, but both of them are pretty good drivers, so we'll see how that turns out.
At the current moment, both drivers are putting in enough proficiency to not crash while maintaining it close. And it looks like Pendry is looking to try and make another move stick, as they're now heading down into the second straight of the track. With that slipstream, they're looking to be unable to actually catch up to Foldesi, as Foldesi looks to actually be pulling away in the BMW right now, as they're now coming into the uphill of the mountain once more.
Yeah, I think the Audi might be struggling on the straights compared to the BMW, and then if you take a note now, I think we're going to see Pendry is going to close it up again in the corner section.
Yeah, definitely looks like Foldesi's struggling going into that uphill, that tight, twisty corners of the Panorama Mountain. And it looks like in that moment, so it looks like Pendry has that section down of the track, but heading into the main straight, it looks like Pendry's unable to make that slipstream take much of a hold in that Audi. So now heading into the downhill, both cars are looking to be flat out, but now as we hear,
that was decent.
That was
That looked like he was flying away.
Superman.
I don't know if we missed it, but Soranko is in last place now for some reason. Quite far down as well.
Ooh, looks like something must have happened to Soranko for them to be placed all the way in the back, starting P4 in this race, now sitting in the back of P10.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's taking a pit stop either, so I'm not sure. Did he get a penalty or maybe?
Doesn't look like a penalty, but it looks like they might have given an honesty check at one of the corners. So we'll have to find out after the race what had happened. But currently on board with R. Morton in the Porsche, being currently trailed by O'Keefe in the Ferrari. O'Keefe, who had actually started in P9, is still in P9, but they had been jumped by Morton earlier on in the race. So currently they're trying to look to see if they can take back that position from them and possibly claim that P8 that would have been theirs had they not have been jumped with Soranko making their mistake. But it looks like they might have been able to make something happen heading into the last corner of the track now. Yeah, O'Keefe making the pass on R. Morton.
Yeah, Rocky, I don't know what happened there. It seemed like Rocky lost focus there for a second and missed the corner completely.
Indeed so, and that's a pretty sizable gap now built up between O'Keefe and Morton. Now, as that Porsche has a large amount of work ahead of them to try and catch up, and currently on board with Pendry still being chased. Actually, Pendry has made it past Foldesi.
Oh yeah, we're missing all the good stuff.
The race director not being very kind to us. We sure you didn't hire the Monaco directors now?
I'm not sure. Maybe I'll have to look into that contract there.
So, currently on board with Jay Pendry in the Audi, car number 73, currently ahead of P. Foldesi in the BMW, car number 711, about half a second up ahead, but definitely all to play for.
Yeah, it does look like he's actually getting a little bit of a gap there now, and pulling away.
But mind you, as we said, the Audi was struggling on the straights compared to the BMW, and the BMW was actually pulling along the straights, so we could see Foldesi catching up and possibly trying to see if they can make a move on Pendry now, as they're coming to the 3 sets of straights of the track now.
Yeah, I think it might be possible, but if we look now, he's already a second ahead of him now. So I think, knowing Pendry as well as I do, I think there's not any chance he's gonna let Foldesi catch up to him again. I think only if there's a big accident or something. But other than that, I think James Pendry might actually have this. Indeed.
So, we have an hour and 7 minutes left into the race. We're currently on board with M. Whitford in the McLaren car number 86, leading this with 4 laps into the race, followed by Fassler, Pendry, Foldesi, Balikaya, Clark, O'Keefe, Morton, Hanks, and in P10 is Soranka. We've definitely had a number of cars shake up a couple of positions here and there, but none so much as Soranka, who had originally started this race in P4, now racing at the back of the grid in P10.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens when we catch up to the lower class drivers. It does look like it's not only Soranka that's had some sort of incident or something happen, because Tom Hanks is also now behind the amateur drivers.
Indeed. So, Tom Hanks in the Aston Martin car number 666, who originally started this race in P7, if I'm not mistaken, had been jumped by the 2 amateur drivers of O'Keefe and Morton, who are still quite possibly battling it out, but O'Keefe seems to have that sizable 1 second gap. Or has it actually gone to
I think it's
6.4 seconds now?
6 seconds now.
6.5, so they've definitely made a sizable gap comparatively.
Yeah.
Currently on board with Whitford, currently followed by Fassler, who is 1.2 seconds back. Do you think Fassler has a chance of catching up to Whitford at this pace?
I mean, we did see a pretty good battle between Fassler and Whitford in the not Bathurst. We are at Bathurst. Brands Hatch. That's the track. And Fassler was actually holding the lead over Whitford for quite some time, but Whitford, he's the most consistent driver I've ever met. So it's possible, especially if Whitford make a mistake. But knowing Whitford, he's gonna hold on to this. But I'm hoping for Fassler. It would be nice to see him beat Whitford for once. So yeah.
Yeah, current moment, Whitford ahead with roughly 1.9 seconds now. So it looks like that lead is starting to grow, as originally we were beginning to talk. They were 1.5, 1.6. So at the current moment, that consistency also seems to have pace along with it, and then Whitford is just pulling ahead.
Yeah, this is usually how it goes when Whitford is racing. He's always in the top, always fighting for podiums, and yeah, we'll see if he can hold on to it. There's still 1 hour to go. A lot can happen, especially at Bathurst.
And it looks like something must have happened to Tom Hanks, as they are currently in the pit lane right now. Let's see if they're going to take their first mandatory pit stop, 1 of 2.
Yeah, we'll see if he actually stays in for a longer period of time, or if he actually gets out pretty quick, because it might be a lot of drivers just try to clear 1 pit stop early. Of course, we don't have anything mandatory you have to change. You can just do a stop and go. But right now it looks like he's staying in for quite some time, so maybe you're right about that damage.
Something must have happened. They could have either clipped the wall or they could have clipped another driver. So let's see what happens later on in the race, but currently sitting in the back now.
Yeah. Of course, we have 2 pit stops per race. So that's a little bit of a safety in case you have an accident. You're not completely out of the race. You still have 1 pit stop to go, and everybody else also has pit stops to go. So it kind of makes the races a little bit more interesting.
Now, speaking of, Foldesi was up ahead and battling it out with Pendry, and now they look to be in P7. So something must have happened with that BMW for them to be falling straight behind, and currently battling it out with O'Keefe of all cars.
Yeah, it looks like I'm not sure. It seems everybody's having incidents when we're not watching, but the only car that's gone into the pit lane so far is Tom Hanks, so it looks like there could have been an incident without hitting the wall, which is amazing if that's the case on this track.
Indeed, and at the current moment we're on board with Kay O'Keefe in the Ferrari 91, who's made 3 good places now up into P6, battling it out with P. Foldesi in the BMW, but who had just been passed by O'Keefe. So now Foldesi up into P6, O'Keefe dropping down to P7 now. But, you know, all to play for. There is still an hour and a minute left of this race, so we could definitely have a different winner come the end of this race. You never know.
Yeah, and I actually talked to Rocky Morton like just before the race, and he was going for the strategy of slow and steady. So I think that might be a winning strategy for most drivers, because as we've mentioned already, P. Foldesi's fallen down. Car Soranko's fallen down. Tom Hanks has fallen down. So a lot of drivers falling down because they're pushing too hard.
Definitely, a lot of the drivers are underestimating the tight, twisty corners here at Bathurst.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens now as we're coming down to about an hour left of the race. 7 laps completed. We have M. Whitford in the McLaren 86 leading the race from Fassler, Pendry, Balakaya, Clark, Foldesi, O'Keefe, Morton, Soranko, and T. Hanks in P10, rounding out our driver list.
It looks like we're seeing Mark Whitford closing up on Tom Hanks for the first
back marker of the race.
Exactly.
Tom Hanks, who is also the first and only driver currently to take their first pit stop, now being blue flagged. So let's see what happens and how does Tom Hanks choose to do this, as well as when does Whitford decide to really push it and pass Tom Hanks. Will it be in some part of the mountain, or does it look like it will be happening in one of the 3 major straights? So it looks to me like it will be happening during the straights, but at the current moment, it looks to me like Whitford is using this time to close the gap up to T. Hanks and then use the straight to be able to pass them.
Yeah, I think with this track especially, it's really hard to let people pass you. So I think most passes or most lap cars will probably let the drivers go on the straights, as we see Tom Hanks doing right now.
Indeed. So Whitford passing T. Hanks now, the blue flag disappearing. T. Hanks now has a bit of an opportunity now to actually use the slipstream of Whitford to try and close up to Soranko, who is 16.8, so roughly 17 seconds ahead. So if Hanks can use this opportunity to his benefit, then he can definitely catch that slipstream and use it to catch up to Soranko potentially.
Yeah, we'll see. He's quite far back right now, and Soranko is probably on a mad run to catch Rocky Morton right now, I think. Of course, Rocky Morton mentioned earlier. It's going slow and steady, so we'll see. See if that's a winning strategy. I know Rocky Morton and O'Keefe are pretty similar in pace, so looks like O'Keefe is a little bit more comfortable with pushing right now.
Yeah, at the current moment, we have our second driver going into the pits now of L. Fassler, so they'll be taking their second pit stop. What do you think is their plan now? It's only been about 15 minutes into the race, and they're already taking their first pit stop. Do you think they're going to be loading up on fuel? Do you think they're going to try and dump a lot of the fuel? What's your take?
For Lucas Fassler right now, I think he's going to change tires, try to get fresh tires. Gain some time on Mark Whitford with some clever pit stop strategy. Fresh tires, of course, means you're going to be slower in the beginning, but once your tires are heated up, then he's going to have an advantage on Whitford if Whitford stays out for longer. So I think it's more of a strategy tire change, if I had to guess.
Well, it looks like Soranko is also taking their second pit stop now.
Yeah, I was about to mention that. So Soranko and Fassler might be doing some similar strategies. But we'll see if Mark Whitford goes in now, or if he stays out. I think Mark Whitford usually goes in his own pace, so we'll see if he stays out. I'm going to guess he's going to stay out.
Yeah, indeed. So let's see what happens now. So 3 drivers in this race have taken their first pit stops now, with the rest still to take their first. 9 laps through, 56 minutes left of the race. We're having Whitford following behind by Pendry, Balakaya, Fuldesi, Clark, O'Keefe, Morton, Fazler, Soranko, and Hanks. Hanks currently, who started relatively decent up in the grid, I would say, in P7, has dropped down to P10, and it looks like they're unable to really try and mount that comeback after qualifying.
Yeah, it definitely looks like... I'm trying to look at the standings right now. The closest battle right now is Fuldesi and Clark, although Fuldesi already overtook Clark, so the standings hasn't updated yet. Yeah, I'm sorry, I completely missed what you said it before, because I was looking at the standings.
Yeah, no, so Clark is about 2 seconds now down from Fuldesi, so they're about the closest one, with all the drivers now spread out on the track. But we could see something happening, as Soranko was just passed by Pendry now, so it looks like they were blue flagged, and Pendry now able to make that pass on them.
Does that mean Carl had an incident, or did he let him go?
Are you referring to Pendry and Soranko?
Yeah.
No, he was blue flagged.
Oh, okay. It looks like he's quite far back, though, already. So
So that happened a while ago.
Okay. Yeah.
So Whitford had managed to catch up, and Pendry had also passed out as well. But it could also been that the pit stop had allowed them to blue flag Soranko without actually needing to blue flag them, as currently Tom Hanks has now made up a place into P9, but of course that is due to Soranko's relatively lengthy pit stop now.
Yeah, I think he might have changed both tires and filled up with fuel.
So eventually playing the long game now, then.
Yeah, I think he'll hold off with his last pit stop until the end. But we'll see how that turns out. Right now, we don't have any battles on track as far as I can see. But let me look at the current best times here. Currently, Mark Westford has the best time with 2:01.6. Then we have James Pendry with Lucas Fessler is second fastest, but he's quite far down right now. Of course, he went into the pits. But James Pendry is the third fastest driver right now. He's got a 2:02.4, which is almost a second slower than Mark Westford right now. Of course, for those that are new, you might not know that the mark that James Pendry has on his number in the standings, 73. It's black. That means he didn't qualify for the season, but he's allowed to partake anyways. So he's basically competing with the pros in the overall standings, despite not really being on the same level as them. So all cars that are marked black, they are basically cars that have not yet that haven't qualified for the season, but still participate.
That would be Pendry and Clark, then, the two of them.
Yeah, that would be correct. So the black generally tells other drivers to be wary when they're passing them, because they might differ in speed and skill on tracks. And then, of course, we have the other classes. The silver class, which is for the middle class, the middle... what's the word in English? The middle...
Silver? Bronze?
I was going to say middle class, but that's not what that means.
No.
Is the midfield of the drivers. Yeah.
Midfield,
There
yep.
you go. And then as well the That's the amateur drivers. Of course, the slowest and the most inexperienced drivers are in the amateur class.
Indeed. Well, still at the current moment, our amateur drivers are ahead of our supposedly more seasoned drivers. So definitely making things happen here at Bathurst. So let's look to see if anything else can happen, as we're currently on board with a driver view of the Porsche Balakaya, now currently heading up the mountain, as you can see here. Fifth gear now, about to hit the peak.
It's interesting to see how everyone takes the lines differently from each class. Of course, Balikaya was in the AM class in the start of the season, but he was performing so good that he was moved up to the silver class. And I think rightly so, because he's in the top of the silver class right now and might even actually win it.
Yeah, indeed. They look to be really putting on a pretty good performance. But at the current moment, Whitford is still out ahead. So, or no. Oh, looks like we have a driver's job. Looked like to be Soranko.
What happened with Soranko?
They've dropped out of the race.
Oh, yeah. Soranko is usually unlucky with his connection. He's had a really rough season. He's had quite a few disconnects, and unfortunately, we see it again. So this goes in both real motorsports and sim sports. Hardware issues, reliability issues. It's unfortunate, but yeah. Cars could have
Fortunate indeed. They look to be possibly doing quite well, but we'll have to see now come next race then how they'll perform.
Yeah, next race of course on Donington, the final race of the season, and also the night race. So that will be interesting to see.
That will be interesting indeed. Night races are always fun. I quite like night races, as it tests a lot more out of drivers.
Oh.
To especially know the track more so comparatively.
Oh yeah. Not only that, but especially in ACC, the night races almost look better than in real life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed that, but Mark Whitford kind of slammed the wall there at the end of the mountain.
Indeed. So definitely to something that I was saying earlier, that drivers need to be careful when heading down the mountain, as they could potentially catch too much speed, and exactly as I was saying before, look at that, hit the wall, unable to brake in time.
Yep. I think it's a common theme right now between all the drivers. The drivers that have benefited from it is probably, well, the AM class drivers, as well as Balikai has done pretty well. Already up into third place. As we go on board with Jason Clark here.
So they managed to...
I haven't seen too much of Jason Clark in the race, but it seems like he's been going pretty steady.
Yeah, climbing up from P8 now in P5 in that McLaren of theirs. So it looks to be that a bit of consistency and luck with all the other drivers crashing out or bumping into things. Looks like they were able to leap a few positions out of it now.
Yeah.
As we see Balakaya now heading into the pits lane for their pit stop to be served.
And he's the fourth driver to take his pit stop.
So roughly half the grid now has taken their pits before the halfway mark of the race. But a couple of the drivers done it well before the quarter mark of the race. So do you think that Balakaya might be deciding to go a bit hard now and then ease off, or do you think they're going to go easy now and then closer towards the end of the race take one more pit stop and try and go as hard as possible?
I think Balkai is probably going to go for a tire change. It's been 30 minutes since the start, and that's usually when the tires start going a little bit bad. So I think he's getting rid of those old tires, getting new ones, and then I think he's probably just going to do a stop and go as his last pit stop. But of course, we'll see, because Bathurst is a dangerous track. You could hit the wall and had to repair, so we'll have to see and see how that plays out.
Yeah, indeed. So let's look to see what happens come in the following minutes of the race. If you're just joining us now, we have 46 minutes left. We are here in Bathurst, Australia. We have 9 cars on the grid, started with 10, sadly lost 1 car to internet connections. We have a track temperature of 24 degrees with a regular ambient temperature of 17. However, the track is optimal for the cars, so they have plenty of grip to go around. As we now see another driver taking their pit stop, that looked to be Pendry. Yes, Pendry indeed. Pendry is taking their pit stop.
Yeah, Pendry's up into second place. I think, was he already in second? Who was in second place?
No, Pendry. Originally it was Fassler, but Fassler had pitted, and so that had dropped him down to P6 at the current moment, with Pendry and Foldesi actually battling it out since Soranko had dropped as well. But currently Clark is up into P4 now, so good on him. It looks like he's managed to make some relatively decent passes. As Foldesi, who had started P5, now is in P2, and Pendry, who started P3, has dropped to P4, but of course they are now in the pits, so they will be definitely going down the order.
Yeah, we can also tell that Fassler has passed Pendry, just hasn't updated in the standings yet. I was gonna say that Pendry's actually overtaken Fassler, so he must have done something right, but I think, yeah, there it goes. Fassler is still ahead with quite a gap there.
Indeed. So, 45 minutes left of the race. It's Whitford followed by Foldesi, Clark, Fassler, Pendry, Morton, O'Keefe, Balakaya, and lastly T. Hanks, who is the 9th driver currently on the grid. It is 24 degrees on the track, 17 in the ambient. No rain is in our forecast, so it looks like we will be sticking to dry as we see a number of cars now taking their second pit stop. It looks to be Balakaya is now taking their second pit. Or are they taking their first? I think they might be taking their first, but the system hasn't updated.
Yeah, I'm not sure. He might be taking his last now, actually. I think it updates when they are done with their pit stop, but don't quote me on that.
It does, right? Yeah. Then it would look like, then, if that is true, that Balakaya would be the first driver to not have any more mandatory pit stops, which, I don't know, Eric. I think that's a bad thing to be happening, as we still have 43 minutes left of the race, so it's a long distance to have to go on a single set of tires, especially with the speed that a lot of these drivers are portraying.
Yeah, and not only that, it's also, if you have an incident, you don't have any spare pit stops to go, so that means you have to do a third and extra pit stop if the damage is bad enough.
Yeah, indeed. So it looks like it was Balakaya's second pit stop. So they're the only driver at the current moment to have completed all their mandatory pit stops, with majority of the grid still requiring their second, with our current top 3 drivers of Whitford, Foldesi, and Clark still requiring their first.
Yeah, I think actually Balakaya did take his pit stops consecutively in the 2 laps just to get rid of him. It looked like the second one was a little bit longer, so that was probably a tire change, a little bit of fuel maybe. But yeah, it's always interesting to see when the drivers have different strategies, and it's quite interesting when there's 2 pit stops, because you never know what's going to happen in the end. Things can play out quite interesting.
Yeah, indeed. It looks like Balakaya might be playing the overcut game now, of pitting early and just trying to go as long as or the undercut of pitting early and trying to go as long as possible into the race. But let's see if that plan manages to work out well, as pit stops are roughly 40 seconds to a minute if you are changing components. So they could potentially catch up and pass and even make places. as we see on board with Fuldesi going a bit wide through the chicane there.
That looked a little bit too close.
Still managing to keep it on track and keeping their car safe and pointing the right direction. So, you know, definitely a scare, but not one that was costly.
Yeah, that was definitely no closer than that. That's all I'm gonna say.
So, heading into 40 minutes of the race, we still have Whitford in the lead with 16 laps completed, but we do have Balakaya, the only driver currently to finish all their mandatory pit stops. So, we could be seeing some cheeky form of strategy play out by the teams as we go later on into the race.
Yeah, I'm looking at the map right now, and Balikaya, he's on the second straight, while Rocky Morton is up at the mountain right now. So he's about maybe half a lap behind Rocky Morton right now. But I think he will definitely come out in front of Rocky Morton once Rocky Morton takes his pit stop.
Quite possibly, but one thing to note is that all the drivers are currently spread out, so looks like we won't be seeing any action for quite a while unless it's any driver error that's to occur.
Yeah, of course, Bathurst is... it's probably more attractive where you actually fight against the mountain, and especially in a race like this. The battle is against the track and yourself, and not the other drivers in general.
Indeed. Well, with the smaller grid sizing, it looks like as we're on board with O'Keefe, who nearly slammed into the wall but managed to brake early enough, heading up into turn 3, my bad. So, looks like they managed to pull it up. But as I was saying, looks like all the drivers are benefiting of having only 9 competitors in the race, with quite a bit of clean air when all the drivers are spread out when things are said and done.
Yeah, that's one of the good things about a smaller race. Generally, if there is an incident, it's not going to affect too many people. Of course, you always want to see as many cars on track as possible, but at the same time, a clean race in a perfect world. But yeah, I still think we're going to have a pretty interesting race once the pit stops start to even out.
Yes, indeed. As we're currently on board with El Fazler, who are they catching up to right now? It's the portion. I think it's Balakaya, yeah. So it looks like Balakaya is going to be blue flagged relatively shortly. So even with those fresh pit stops, it still looks like Fazler has a lot more raw pace than Balakaya can provide in that Porsche.
Yeah, Lucas Fessler is definitely on a much faster pace. His last lap was 2.2.6 compared to Balikaya, which had a lap of 2.4.2 last lap. So that would be almost 2 seconds slower.
Yes, indeed, as we currently now have our leader of M. Whitford now heading into the pits along with K. O'Keefe. So looks like O'Keefe is getting their second pit stop out of the way, but Whitford is now taking their first 18 laps into the race, but almost an hour through.
Yeah, I heard what you said, and I also saw that Lucas Fessler also touched the wall a little bit there, so he did the same thing as Mark Whitford, where he slightly grazed the wall, but hopefully not too much damage there either. Of course, Mark Whitford, if he has too much damage from that earlier thing, he might have to stay in the pit lane for a little bit longer to fix that. But we will see when the pit stop clears out who's in front, if it's Fessler or Whitford.
So if you're joining us just now, we are halfway through the race here now, with a number of different elements going on. So we have 9 drivers in the race. Currently have M. Whitford, P. Fuldesi, J. Clark, L. Fazler, J. Pendry, R. Morton, there we go, K. O'Keefe, T. Hanks, followed by L. Balakaya, with a number of drivers now finishing their pit stops. namely O'Keefe, Hank, who's now just entered the pit, so it looks like they'll be completing their second pit stop relatively soon, along with Balakaya. So the only drivers left to pit now in the race are Jay Clark and P. Fuldesi in the BMW and the McLaren. So let's see what happens with those two drivers, as Whitford, who has taken their first pit stop, is still running in the podium positions in P2 currently, 7 seconds behind Fuldesi. It looks like once Fuldesi decides to take that second pit stop, they're going to lose that pole position from them.
Yeah, I think it's a lot to do with that. Well, we missed it, but incident that happened earlier with Fuldesi, where he seemed to have spun somewhere and lost a lot of positions. So I think if Fuldesi would not have had that, I think he would be still fighting in the top for sure.
Yeah, indeed. Looks like we might have another session, or is that... oh, no, that is Fassler passing Balakaya, I believe, of car number 51. Yeah, so Fassler now passing Balakaya. They managed to get through with the blue flags relatively cleanly, but it does look like we have a jumble up ahead with Whitford following in front of O'Keefe, who is in front of Jay Clark. So Jay Clark and Whitford look to be blue flagging O'Keefe right now.
Yeah, and it also looks like we have Mr. Fuldesi actually went into the pit right now. Just as we saw that. He is clearing his first pit stop, yeah.
So, only one driver then left to pit, which will be Jay Clark, who's currently running in third position. Started this race out in 8th. So they've definitely made some good places and definitely some good set of points. However, it is important to note that they are not competing inside of the championship this season, but hopefully they'll be able to stick around next season and begin competing then.
Yeah, of course, it's his first race of the season. He's been unable to due to various reasons. But yeah, it's nice to see him rejoin us. He competed last season and did fairly okay, and he also competed in season 3, I believe. So he's been with us for quite some time. Of course, Rocky Morton is the driver that I think is the only driver that's racing right now that's been in every single season. The other drivers,
yes, indeed,
have I think most of them have been in previous seasons, but not to the extent of Rocky Morton. He's I think he has the most races raced in Olympus, I believe. So yeah, he's got a lot of
veteran
experience.
of the trade.
Yeah, he's a veteran but an amateur at the same time. He's not the fastest driver, but he's definitely improved over the 5 seasons that he's been with us.
Well, I mean, that's always the important part, right? Race for fun, but race for improvement as well. So
Yeah,
it looks like they're doing quite well.
He is leading the AM Championship as well, so that's something to keep in mind as well.
Could be looking for a promotion relatively soon if they keep up that rate, then.
Oh yeah. As could Balakaya here. He's been doing really good this season. I think before this race he was in 3rd place for the... Yeah, he was in 3rd place in the silver class, so he's definitely have a chance to win it right now. Especially with the driving he has. He has a very consistent driving pace, and he's not really pushing too hard. He always keeps it just within the limit. I think that's what differs a good driver from or I should say that's what differs a really good driver from a good driver.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, a good driver can be really fast, but he still makes a lot of mistakes. So he hits the wall every now and then. A really good driver is someone like Mark Westford. It's like,
Well, no driver is perfect, right? So some people are always bound to make mistakes.
yeah, that is true. Even professionals makes a lot of mistakes in races, but I think that drivers that can do that and keep the car on the track while pushing that hard, they're bound to be champions one day.
Yeah, definitely. So if you're joining us right now, we have about 31 minutes left of the race. Whitford is leading the leading the race ahead of Jay Clark, Fasler, Pendry, Foldesi, Morton, O'Keefe, Balakaya, and Hanks. And just I was about to say it, Jay Clark has now finally come in for their first pit stop of the race, with El Fasler actually taking their second pit stop of the race now. So at this point, half the grid will have finished their mandatory pit stop requirements.
Yeah, if Fessler taking his pit stop already when it's 30 minutes left, it's quite risky in case he has an incident or something. But I think it feels like he has to gamble because Mark Westford is just pulling away there.
Yeah, it definitely looks like they might have decided, you know what, I want fresh rubber, I want a bit more fuel in my tanks. Let's try and get some to be able to pull back into this race.
Yeah, for sure. James Pendry moving up into second place now. Of course, he still has one pit stop.
Indeed. So it's one thing I want to point out, but it's going to be really tricky for Jay Clark, who's seemingly trying to overcut the entire grid with going so long before their first pit stop. They still have one more to go, and they'll possibly land themselves in P4 at this rate, as Foldesi and Morton both will have to take their pit stop as well. But as we're saying that, Foldesi is now just past Jay Clark, so we'll have to see what happens and when do they decide to all take their pits. All the current leaders right now in the top four require a pit stop, along with R. Morton, who is currently sitting in P6. So look to see what will happen come later on in the race, as Jay Clark has now dropped to P5. Looks like that pit stop has really hurt them.
Yeah, and he still has one pit stop to go. I'm not sure how far ahead he is to Morton, but yeah.
When the timing sheets decide to update us, we will find out the distance to him and Clark, but it definitely looks quite sizable. Clark is a ways away. I see this as easily a 20, 30 second gap between the two drivers.
Yeah, it's quite a big gap there. Of course, I don't know, O'Keefe is behind Rocky as well. I think O'Keefe is definitely going to overtake Rocky when Rocky makes his pit stop, so I think it might be an interesting race between Jason Clark and O'Keefe there later on. I think once Clark takes his pit stop, he's probably going to come out around where O'Keefe is right now, I think.
Yeah, definitely. That first pit stop had really dropped them down quite a bit out of the order, so that overcut doesn't seem to be working quite as well as Clark would have liked it to have. But, you know, let's never say never, right? The race is not over. There are still 27 minutes left of the race. Anything can happen, so you never know what might.
Yeah, this... Whoa,
as we're on board with Jay Pendry, who's hit the wall heading up the mountain just before the tip of it and heading down now, so quite possibly could have sustained some damage, but it looks like they're good to go again. But that is definitely going to hurt their chances of trying to take the lead of the race if they're making costly mistakes like that.
Yeah, and this is what we talked about earlier as well. Save one pit stop if you have an accident, because otherwise you're going to have to make a third one in case you have one. But we'll see. We'll see if James Pendry actually has to go in and fix that. It looked like he hit it moderately hard, maybe. We'll see. He might have some damage to the rear, but I think we're going to be able to find out here in a second when he passes the pit lane or if he goes in.
Yeah, so now heading through the chicane, coming up to the pit lane entry. Let's see if they decide to dive in now for their second mandatory, but it doesn't look like that'll be happening now, and it looks like they haven't sustained too deep an injury, so it looks like they'll just be continuing on to try and play a bit of catch-up for all the lost time, but definitely that is going to hamper their chances of winning this race. I don't see that happening now, given that sort of event and the time between them and Whitford. But they could still claim a podium position given how far ahead they are from Fuldesi and Fassler. So who knows what will happen in the coming moments of the race.
Yeah, and Fassler, he still has no pit stops left, so he only has the track to worry about. Of course, Henry and Fuldesi has to think about when they want to do their pit stops. Are they going to come out in front of Fassler or not? And yeah, I think the pressure is on Fuldesi and Henry right now.
Yeah, indeed. So, coming down to roughly 25 minutes left of the race, if you are joining us right now, you've missed a bit of action, though that's probably due to our Monaco directors. Current track temperature is 24 degrees with an ambient air temperature of 17, so that track could potentially be cooling down with only 9 drivers on the grid. We have sadly lost Soronko earlier in the race due to an internet disconnect. But the current order on the grid is Whitford, followed by Pendry, Fuldesi, Fassler, Clark, Morton, O'Keefe, Balakaya, and Hanks. A number of drivers moving up and down the standings. Fassler, who you were watching and who we are on board with, started off this race in P2, now currently sitting in P4. Pendry, who started this race off in P3, managed to climb up to P2. Fuldesi, who was actually started P5, managed to make it up into the podium position of P3, so good on them, as we now see the leader of Whitford along with Jay Clark and R. Morton taking their second pit stops of the race, so they can possibly go straight to the end now without having to dive into the pit lane once more, leaving only Pendry and Fuldesi, the other 2 podium runners, still requiring their second pit stops.
Does that mean that O'Keefe has climbed up 2 positions now? Because he's already in front of Rocky Morton and Clark.
Yeah, he has. O'Keefe has technically climbed 2 positions, starting off in P9. They're now racing in P7. So definitely they made up positions. So has Morton, who had started P10, now is in P7. So they've managed to climb as well, along with Jay Clark, who is now in P6.
Of course, Balakaya is right behind Rocky right now.
Yep, so currently on board with Balakaya, trying to catch up with R. Morton. As we see now, Clark and Hanks have been passed, so Balakaya moving up into P7 now. Up on the climb, up the mountain. Let's see what happens with Balakaya as they chase their fellow Porsche driver of R. Morton. It's definitely a tricky section of the track, so they'll need to be relatively careful now. But they are being blue flagged now. I think that is...
Mark coming up behind him, I think.
Yeah, M. Whitford now coming up behind the 2 Porsche drivers. So now heading down the hill to the main straights of the track. It looks like that was probably when Whitford will be able to get their opportunity to try and pass both Morton and Balakaya. It is definitely very tricky to pass on these twisty... Oh, but there's been an accident. Both the Porsche drivers have gone into each other and gone straight into the wall, and it looks like that might have been a bit costly, as now we're on board with Balakaya, who has definitely taken a hit but has managed to come out of it relatively unscathed and actually ahead of R. Morton, who has lost the position not only to Balakaya but also to Jay Clark as well.
I am unsure if that was an accident or if Rocky just slowed down to let somebody behind him pass with a blue flag.
Indeed, as they are still blue flags, so there's another car. I believe that is the Aston Martin of T. Hanks, or that is the Aston Martin of Fassler behind them now.
Yeah, everyone is in the same...
No, it is T. Hanks. It is T. Hanks catching up to R. Morton.
No, I think that is James Pendry in the Audi there that is wanting to pass Balakaya.
Oh, that is Pendry. Oh yes, that is okay. That is Pendry. Still learning the car liveries.
Yeah, James Pendry, of course, in his green and white livery from last season. last season James Pendry competed in the America Series, so he was competing in a different continent, but he came over this season and he's been doing pretty well. The competition is slightly tougher in the European Series, but he's definitely been doing well, and as we can see right now, he's in second place. So yeah, we'll see how that turns out. It's James Pendry and Pete Fuldesi. Both of them still have a pit stop to go.
Yeah, my eyes are currently on Jay Clark and R. Morton, who are trailing behind each other, along with Balakaya. So Balakaya, Clark, and Morton, all three drivers are so close to each other right now. As Clark is trying to look to see if they can make something happen on Balakaya right now, but Balakaya holding on, but that might be just due to the mountain aspect itself. So let's see if Jay Clark might be able to get that slipstream and try and catch up and pass that Porsche. As it looks to me that Morton has dropped down behind the two of them.
Yeah, he's lost a little bit of time. I don't know if he got some damage maybe from that incident. It's possible.
So Morton, who was running in P6, had fallen now behind both Balakaya and Clark.
Yeah, he is. Unfortunately, he's lost a lot of traction, and we can see that Tom Hanks is also chasing ahead there, so he's getting closer and closer. 20 minutes for Rocky to hold his position there if he wants to keep pace.
We have 20 minutes left of the race, and Pendry and Fuldesi both still need to take their first pit stop or second pit stop. And as I say that, Fuldesi has decided to dive into the pits now, looking to possibly undercut Pendry and see if they can take P2 back.
Yeah, I think he's 18 seconds behind right now, is what the standings are telling me.
Yeah. So at the current moment, Pendry, who started P3, is still in P3. Or Fuldesi, who had actually started P5, my bad, is now running in P3. Pendry, who started P3, is now in P2. So at the current moment, Pendry might be finishing out in P3 if they're not careful with the overcut going through. Now on board with El Fazler, who's heading down the main start straight, looking to catch up to T. Hanks. So, or not, is that Hanks? Yeah, it looks to be that it's Hanks. So they will be blue flagging them relatively soon. So they will need to clear them quickly if they want any hopes of catching up to Fuldesi.
Yeah, of course, Tom Hanks is the second Aston Martin driver we have in the series. Of course, this race we're seeing one Aston Martin on top, one at the bottom. So it's not always what car you have, it's also who the driver is.
Yeah, the cars in these championship series are relatively equal in terms of performance, so it all usually comes down to the driver and their massive skill to be able to try and catch up and pass a lot of the drivers.
Yeah, and it's also a lot, like one car might fit one driver and another car might not fit the same driver. Because all cars handle differently, it's going to be different for everyone. Me, for example, I love the Lexus and the Ferrari, but the Porsche, I can't drive it at all. Just basically due to my driving style. So a lot is about driving style, and a lot of this driver's individual style of driving as well.
Yeah, indeed. So, 18 minutes left into the race. We have Woodford, Pendry, Fazler, Fuldesi, O'Keefe, Balakaya, Clark, Morton, and Hanks left into the race. We had sadly lost Soranko early on due to a disconnect. Jay Pendry is the only driver left who still requires a pit stop to be able to complete this race without being disqualified.
And I think, as we said earlier, we can see that Tahir Balakaya and Jason Clark are actually fighting right now. They're driving quite equally. I think the last lap, yeah, Jason Clark is about 0.3 faster than Tahir Balakaya right now. Yeah, they're extremely equal. Balakaya has slightly faster best time, but as it looks like now, Jason Clark is actually slightly faster, so I think this might be a battle that is worth watching for sure.
Yeah, indeed.
This is
As we
Jason's.
now see a lot of them come down the mountain between the two, Balakaya and Clark. But it looks like Clark might be looking to try and make a move on Balakaya as they're now heading into one of the 3 straights. Probably catching the slipstream.
Yeah.
Clark.
I always think I also think he's a little bit cautious there to get too close, especially in the mountain.
But it looks to be making a move right now. Heading onto the inside is now Balakaya taking the inside on the card, but Clark might be looking to make something happen. As they head through the chicane, nothing yet. Clark slightly pulling back, but no, looks like they're catching up to the slipstream, pulling in close again as they're now heading into the final corner. Clark, Balakaya taking the line. Nothing happening just yet. Clark playing the patient game, trying to catch that slipstream, trying to catch up, taking the outside, both drivers. Clark may be looking to dive on the inside, but no, unable to make anything happen as they're still a bit too far back. Clark, one more straight left to go before they begin to head up and down the mountain. It will be practically impossible for Clark to be able to try and pass by, and it looks like it'll be unable to happen as Balakaya quickly catches up to the mountain ahead of Clark. Clark falling behind now half a second.
Yeah, I think Clark got a really bad run out of that on the second straight there. I think we're going to see him catch up quite a bit on the after the mountain, because I think the Porsche might be a little bit faster in the twisty sections.
Yeah, definitely. The Porsches are relatively smaller wheelbases, definitely a bit lighter, definitely easier to take a lot of these twists and turns with their design. But of course, heading to the straights, you know, the cars like the McLaren, the Ferraris, the BMW, Audis, they definitely have the advantage heading down the straights with their powerful engines. So let's see what happens now as both drivers are heading down, as we're currently on board with Balakaya looking through their rear wing, looking at Clark chasing up, who is still half a second behind, but definitely gaining pace, and looks like they're closing up the gap as fast as possible now heading downhill.
And just as
Currently
we
on board with M. Whitford.
Yeah, and Whitford is lapping yet another car, of course. I was gonna say, just as we see Balakaya and Clark fighting, Tom Hanks was in the pit lane again, so he's been in the pit lane 3 times, which goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that you might want to save one of your pit stop until later, because you might have an incident and you might need it. So I think this has cost Tom Hanks the possibility of getting 8th place there.
Fazler has dove into the pits once more.
Oh, Fessler's having issues.
Looks like they must have sustained some sort of damage where they're going to need to head into the pits. That's definitely going to ruin their chances of a podium finish.
Do you think it's damage,
at this
or
time.
do you think it might be you might have missed to add enough fuel?
I think it might have been. It could be both. We definitely see some drivers being given an honesty check throughout this race, so you never know what might have happened. It could be that they also miscalculated their fuel usage and require more fuel now.
Yeah, I'm not sure who it was, but there was one driver this season that actually misjudged how much fuel he was going to have. Luckily for him, he had another pit stop, but yeah, hopefully that's not the same case for Lucas Fessler here. Whatever the reason is, he's still in the pit and he's already down to 7th place, so it's going to be a tough ending for him here.
Indeed, but look on the bright side, they can say that they finished in the top 10, so.
Yeah, that's true. Top 9 even.
Yeah. So, 13 minutes left of the race. Woodford still leading this race, followed by Fuldesi, Pendry, O'Keefe, Balakaya, Clark, Morton, Fazler, and Hanks. A couple of drivers making quite a bit of places, a couple of drivers falling down. Fazler, who had started this race off in P2, is now running in P8. So they've definitely fallen down the grid, but Fuldesi, who started P5, is now running P2. Pendry started and finishing, currently still in P3. We're looking at O'Keefe, who's now in P4, started in P9, so good on them. Our Morton started in P10, currently in P7. Clark, P8, now sitting in P6. Balakaya started P5, dropped started P6, gained 1 place to now P5. Hanks, who had started P7, has actually dropped to P9 now. So that's been the relative changes for the drivers. As we're currently on board with the right wing of Balakaya, still being chased by Clark.
Yeah, I was going to say that Tahir Balakaya was only 0.003 hundredths slower than Jason Clark in the previous, or faster than Jason Clark in the last lap. So they're about equal pace right now. But if we look at the last times on the last lap, Kieran O'Keefe is about 2 seconds slower than both Balikaya and Jason Clark, and he's just a few seconds ahead of them. So it looked like we might have a little bit of a traffic jam coming up here shortly. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out for Jason Clark and Balikaya.
Yeah, indeed. Looks like the drivers are still going at it quite hard, so we still have 10 minutes left of the race, so let's see what happens. It's anyone's game still.
It seems like most drivers are still on the same lap as well, which is quite amazing. Usually Mark Westford tends to lap most of the field together with the other pro drivers, but today it's been I think people have been taking it quite easy. The mountain is definitely nothing to play with.
Yep, indeed. So, 10 minutes left of the race, 30 laps have been completed. M. Whitford leads the race, followed by Fuldesi, Pendry, O'Keefe, Balakaya, Clark, Morton, Fasler, and T. Hanks. If you're joining us now, we're at Australia in Bathurst in Australia. We're at the Mount Panorama track. That mountain, yes indeed. It's been a relatively interesting race. A couple accidents here and there with only 10 drivers, so you know, wasn't expecting much action, but we've still gotten a decent amount. Currently on board watching Balakaya, who's now seemingly put in a sizable distance between them and Clark. So I wonder what happened to Clark to have fallen back so far from Balakaya. Now on board with Fuldesi, who has quite a distance away from Whitford. Doesn't look like they'll be able to win at this rate, but listen, there's still 10 minutes to go. You never know. Whitford could have an accident. They could run out of fuel, tire pop. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm wondering what happened to Jason Clark as well, because he's about 4 seconds slower than Balikaya last lap, so he might have lost traction somewhere. Hopefully he didn't hit the wall. Yeah, we'll see if he can catch up to Balikaya. Balikaya, of course, he's starting to catch up to O'Keefe, but there's only 8 minutes left now, so we'll see if... I think there's going to be a battle to the end here between those three, which would be...
Yeah, quite possibly, if they're able to close up roughly a minute a pace every minute. So let's see what happens, as there's still quite a bit of distance. I think at the current pace of things, once we get the time updated for Fuldesi straight to Whitford, just trying to see where they are on the track. Car number 86. Oh yeah, Whitford or Fuldesi has quite a task ahead of them to try and catch up to Whitford. That is close to easily a minute of distance away. I would say at least 40 seconds, if not more.
Yeah, and
so
if we look at
a miracle needs to happen.
Yeah, and if we look at Mark Whitford right now, he's actually about to lap Lucas Festa, that was contending for second place there, which is really unfortunately. Lucas
Very
Festa,
unfortunate indeed. Started really high up in the grid. Started second, in fact, of this race, but somehow ended up finishing looking to finish P8 if they are unable to really catch up to R. Morton and pass them. Currently on board with K. O'Keefe in the Ferrari right now. Car number 91.
Yeah,
P4 started O'Keefe, started P9, jumped up 5 positions now. So good on them.
Yeah, right now it looks like he is also... He's about 1.5 to 2.5 seconds slower than Balikaya right now. So if Balikaya keeps up this pace, there's definitely going to be a battle between those guys at the end. And if
Indeed.
if that is prolonged, then Jason Clark might have a chance to catch up to them as well. So might be a three-way battle at the end, but we'll definitely see as we are checking out Mark Whitford. This is, of course, his sixth race, I believe. And he has so far won every single race that he has participated in.
Definitely a large amount of gold medals will be given over to them.
Yeah.
So good on them.
He's also the reigning champion of last season, so he's no joke. I would call him the Michael Schumacher of Olympus.
So, 6 minutes left of the race. We have M. Whitford leading the race in their McLaren car number 86, followed by Foldesi, Pendry, O'Keefe, Balakaya, Clark, Morton, Fazler, and Hanks. The driving order has definitely been shaken up since the beginning of this race, with drivers such as Fazler, who started off in P2, now driving in P8 and being lapped, close to being lapped by Whitford, if anything. So quite an unfortunate deal, as we're currently on board with Whitford now climbing up the mountain. Looks like they'll be blue flagging another car relatively soon, and looking to see if they can possibly pass that driver come the main straight now.
Fessler hit the wall there. It looked like he was going to let Mark go, but
that's definitely not going to help them. Driving in so early into the race, now looking to have such little pace, and not only that, but even making quite possibly a costly mistake of hitting the wall as they did. If there was any hope for them, it looks to be gone now with 5 minutes left.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. Fessler has really had a bad season, and this just adds on top of that.
So currently on board with Balakaya once more. Looks to me like they've cleared the threat of Jay Clark now.
Yeah, he's built quite a gap to Jason Clark. Oh, well, maybe not anymore. As we see him bounce into the wall. I'm not sure if there's any driver that hasn't been in the wall in this race.
Indeed. Looks like I don't think that's really done much to allow Clark to really catch up. But if Balakaya has sustained any damage, that will definitely allow Clark to catch up and potentially look to pass and claim P5 of this race. As we're now on board with Whitford, who's passed Fazler and built up a bit of a lead. But as we're on board back again with Balakaya,
into the pit lane.
But they're diving into the pits, so it looks like they've sustained some damage as we're on board with Jay Pendry, who's made a quick pass on a pot. Who did they pass heading down the mountain? Oh, that looks to be our Morton.
Fessler. Oh, that was Fessler. Fessler, well, Foldesi, I mean. Foldesi just lost second place.
Well,
Foldesi just lost second place to Pendry. Foldesi has hit the wall as well.
Oh, yeah, indeed.
I was going to say I'm surprised that Balakaya actually went into the pit lane there. Because it's only 4 minutes left. He might as well stay out, but maybe he had so much damage that he couldn't drive.
Quite possibly, as we now see the hood is really damaged on Foldesi, so that's definitely going to hamper them.
See, Foldesi stays out. I think this would have been the right move to do for Balakaya, because right now he's lost not only the possibility of getting fourth over O'Keefe, he's also lost the position.
Fifth position, yeah. And Morton has definitely been given the opportunity to try and catch up to Balakaya now with that lengthy pit stop.
Yeah, is he close now? Yeah, there's a little bit of a gap there. 2 minutes left. Maybe not. But definitely Definitely
Morton's closed a
interesting.
lot of the gap, but it doesn't look like it's enough to really count as much as they're still 16 seconds behind Balakaya.
Yeah. It's interesting to see though. As it's been an interesting race. Of course, Bathurst is always unpredictable. We've seen that quite a lot today, and especially now at the end. We've had 2 or 3 drivers in the wall just in the last few laps. So
Yeah.
let's see. I think Folasi is definitely going to keep the 3rd place. If he just keeps on track now. Looks like O'Keefe is a little bit too far behind, and also doesn't look like Jason Clark is going to be able to challenge O'Keefe in the time that is left right now.
Yep, 1 minute left into the race. We're at the closing remarks now. The closing minutes, as the drivers have all of it to play for. We have Whitford, Pendry, Fuldesi, O'Keefe, Clark, Balakaya, Morton, Fazler, and Hanks. O'Keefe definitely putting out a really good performance, starting in P9, now riding in P4. So they definitely made things work for them. And a bit of a shame for Fazler, as they had started the race in P2 and it dropped all the way down to P9. So they'll definitely be wondering what had gone wrong for them throughout that race. As Pendry, who started P3, has luckily managed to climb up to P2. Fuldesi, who originally started P5, climbed up into the podium position and is the 3rd place at the current moment. 5 seconds left. Once Whitford crosses the line, it will be the last lap of this race, and all drivers who cross after that will be completing their race. Now, as we see Whitford now coming around the final corner to begin their final lap, it would seem.
Yep, I think this is the finish.
Oh, so it does look like it's the finish. And it looks like M. Whitford has finished and won the race once again.
Yeah, a very good race from him as always. A little bit of a touch in the wall there at the end, but yeah, as I said, he's the Micah Schumacher of Olympus.
As we're on board now with Jay Pendry.
Yeah, I believe if James Pendry finishes 2nd here now, that would be his 1st podium for the season. So it's really big for him.
Yeah, good for him. As he's now climbing down the mountain, heading into the final straight soon. 2 more corners left.
Yeah, Falaci's not that far behind, so if he does a mistake, he could. I'm not sure what he's doing right now. He's slowing down. Hopefully he realizes Falaci is right behind him.
Could also be that he's running out of fuel or he has some sort of damage. But Fuldesi is definitely managing to catch up now. So if he's not careful, he'll lose P2 after working so hard for it.
Yeah,
Now heading to the chicane. I don't know what's happened. They've suffered quite a bit. Looks like they've lost a lot of their pace. That's just all managed to evaporate now.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Pendry if he's doing this on purpose or if he actually, if his wheel got loose or something.
Yeah. But regardless, it looks like we've now have our finishing order of Whitford, who wins the race here in Bathurst, Australia, followed by Jay Pendry, following behind with Fuldesi.
It's been an interesting race. Unfortunately, Kara Sorenka got disconnected. I think it could have been quite interesting because he's a fast driver and he would probably be fighting for a lot of positions. But yeah, it's been interesting. We will be taking a short break here, but we will be back with interviews shortly.
checkers in the air. Oh, Michael! Now overshoots turn one.
Green. 3 wide with half.
They're running into each other left and right.
Out there, nice work. Outside, long and bumper. All clear.
James, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you.
You finally got a podium.
Yep, about time.
Yeah. How did the race feel for you?
Race went pretty good. Race start was good. Turn 2 went a bit deep and lost 2 places. And then Caro spun it a couple laps later.
Did you hit him or
That
no?
got me. No, me and I think it was Peter found him spun around after Skyline.
All right. Yeah, we saw you. I think you hit the wall a few times, didn't you?
Yeah.
Just lightly.
Yeah, grazed the walls a couple times and then spun it got 2 big crashes before and after McPhillamy, which didn't help much, but it's Bathurst.
Yeah, and you managed to get second place and finally a podium, so that's great.
Yep.
Yeah, congratulations, then. And will you be joining us for the last race of the season, Donington?
Yes.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah,
Awesome.
pretty sure.
Yep, that's great, man. Thank you, and I'll see you then.
Bye.
All right, let's see who else we got. I think we got O'Keefe down here, winner of M class. Hello, O'Keefe. Can you hear me?
I can indeed. Hello, you okay?
Yeah. Oh, that was an interesting race.
Oh my god, it was amazing.
You did you feel threatened there at the end because you had both?
My car was wrecked. So obviously Rocky let me go, and then ended up. I don't know. I didn't really overtake anyone. I ended up 4th, and then I could see Clark and Balakaya both come in.
Yep.
And I was like, it's 11 seconds, and I got 10 minutes. And then literally just before that, I bashed into a wall. I don't even know why. And then my top speed was reduced by like 10 miles an hour. And I was like, oh my God, this is not good.
Yeah, well-
every time he was getting closer and closer. And I think with 4 minutes left, he was 4 seconds behind. But then I don't know what happened. Because I went over the finish line and then he didn't appear at the next corner on my little map.
So what happened to Balakai is he kind of touched the wall, and instead of continuing going, he felt like he needed to needed to pit, so he lost a lot of positions due to that. I'm not really sure why he pitted when there was 4 minutes left, but yeah.
Yeah, because he was catching me, and I was like, oh my god, he's gonna get me, and I was like, it'd be so sad if I was fourth for this long and I end up sixth, because I'm gonna lose 2 places. But luckily, he kept chugging along. It was all right.
Yeah, but, like you were almost 1.5, 2.5 seconds slower than both Balikaya and Clark there. So yeah, we were looking at that quite intensely at the end, but yeah, you got it, and you got the M class victory, and as well as the 4th place. So you should be happy. I'm not sure. I'm not
It's been
sure.
a good day.
Yeah, I'm not sure where this puts you in the standings for the M championship, but you got a lot of points.
So I don't think I can't catch Rocky, so I think I'll probably end up second in that. But as we were talking, the most important thing is I think we're going to be 25 points clear on the team,
Oh yeah,
the
you guys
overall
are.
team standings.
Yeah, I forgot you guys are the team championship, so you guys are probably in the lead now.
Because I think, well, we started in the lead, we're 4 points clear. Obviously, Mark won, so that's like 25. I've got 22, so that brings us about level. And then Rocky gets 19 or 20, so we should be about 20 points clear with 1 race to go.
Yep.
So
Sounds
fingers
good.
crossed. That would suit me down to the ground, and if we win that, so that'd be nice.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, and hopefully we'll see you at Donington.
No worries. I'll catch you later.
Yep. See you, man. All right. Let's get Rocky up here as well. Rocky.
Hey.
You had a. I don't really know. There was not much happening with you this race.
Yeah, and that's known as a good result for me.
8th place, yeah. I think you could have gotten better, definitely.
I don't know. For me to finish 1 hour 15, 1 hour 15 minutes of racing on Bathurst is that's a good enough result for me. I'm just so pleased I didn't spend like 10 minutes in the pits.
Yeah. Did you hit the walls at any point in time, or did you get any damage in the race? Because most drivers did.
Yeah, I was going for a clean race. I was going for the tortoise and the hare approach, hoping not to have any damage, and all the fast guys can cause all the damage to themselves. But I think I had a few seconds of damage at one point from 1 or 2 wall incidents. I think, oh yeah, it was, there were some faster cars coming up behind me, so the tension got the better of me, and I hit the wall at the Bentley corner. Apart from that, it was a really clean race for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of points for the team as well, as we were talking with Kieran earlier. So you guys are definitely pulling away in the team championship there.
Yeah, Kieran thinks he's done the maths on that, and it's looking like with only 1 race to go, we've got the team trophy wrapped up.
Oh, nice. Team trophy, and also a possibility of a 1 and 2nd in the M class, which is really good for your team.
Yeah, pleased with that. I'm looking forward to watching the replay tonight because there seemed to be quite a lot of action going on behind me. Cars were catching up and then they were falling away again, so it looks like there was quite a bit of action.
There was a lot of incidents, mostly single incidents, but there was a lot of incidents.
Yeah, I look forward to watching that then. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed that. What a track that is.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun track, and next track would be Donington. Have you raced that one yet, or?
I think I have raced it a couple of times, and if I remember correctly, I think I quite enjoyed it. But this will be a night-time race, won't it?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay then. Looking forward to the last race of the season.
Yeah, and yeah, hopefully we'll get a little bit more drivers, but still, it was fun to watch, and we'll see you there.
Okay, thanks, Eric.
All right, I don't know if Clark is here because he's muted, but I'm gonna pull him up and we'll see. Jason, are you here? Can you hear us? Yeah, No, he's not here. Well, that was everything for today, actually. It was an interesting race. I don't know.
Yeah, it definitely was.
What I don't know if Key has anything to say about it. What did you think about it?
Yeah, definitely a bit of a disappointment that we only had 10 drivers in today's race, but it definitely had some interesting moments that came out here and there. So, definitely looking forward to see what the future holds, and let's see what happens next week at Donington and potentially season 6.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Donington is one of my favorite tracks personally, so I'm excited. And on top of that, it's a night race, so it's definitely gonna put some driver skill on the wall there. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. And this has been it for today. And hopefully you've liked the stream. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Take care, guys.
Green and white checkers in the air. Oh, Michael! Now overshoots turn 1.
Green, green, green. 3 wide with hand.
They're running in there, each other left and right.
All clear, nice work. Outside on your property. All clear.